How to say no to a narcissist elegantly and effectively. Let's do it. Hi friends, Tammy M. Joyce here, Empowerment Life Coach, creator of the Freedom Class and the Ascension Class. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Please take a second to say hello and introduce yourself in the comments section below. And if you're back, welcome back. Thanks for showing up and for tuning in. Either way, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified as I post new videos throughout the week. So how do we say no to a narcissist elegantly and effectively? Let's face it, narcissists are notorious for not being able to take no for an answer. Few people can hound, harass, insult, stomp, scream, and yell, bully, coerce, and threaten at the mere hint of not getting their own way, or God forbid, hearing the word no, like someone with a destructive narcissist personality pattern. So, if we're going to say no to a narcissist and not only mean it, but have the message land in a way that clearly states this is not a negotiation, we're going to have to do so in a way that's empowered and effective. In other words, how you say no to a narcissist can make a big difference in the outcome. Now, to begin with, you'll want to be prepared in advance. And what I mean by that is anticipate that your no will be challenged as well as criticized. The narcissist is likely to try to insult you when you can't or won't do whatever it is they want. If you have a clear reason that isn't personal to the narcissist, then your job is to state your reason as clearly and succinctly as possible. Like, for example, I have to do such and such on that day, so I can't help you. Or, I don't have the necessary skills, time, ability, or money to do that for you. Period. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone when you say no. In addition, you'll want to be calm and matter of fact in your delivery. Short, clear, succinct sentences. The less words, the better. Being calm and matter of fact will help to de-escalate the situation if the narcissist reacts by getting upset because they're not getting their way. This tone and posture also communicates that there is absolutely nothing wrong with your answer. You're allowed to say no, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. It's not something that merits anyone getting upset about. Now, what the narcissist chooses to do with that information is on them. This does not have to be your problem. Also, be respectful in so much as you're able. Now, this one's not easy, especially when they're lying, manipulating, distorting, or lashing out in any way. But make it your goal to remain respectful to the best of your ability, even when they aren't, especially when they aren't. Narcissists desperately want to be respected, and I do mean desperately. So, see this as a strategy to be used to your advantage. Again, to de-escalate the situation. More often than not, it will be helpful. And whatever you do, stand firm. Often, a narcissist will attempt to coerce you into changing your mind. So, it's up to you to get comfortable with repeating your no calmly in a matter-of-fact manner once or twice, then make an effort to end the conversation by saying something like, I've already given you my answer. And silence. Then move on. Don't linger and give them an opportunity to argue or try to manipulate you into changing your mind. Now, with all of that said, let's talk about the power of a graceful no. Here are a couple of examples of a graceful and elegant yet firm and clear no. I appreciate your kind invitation, but I'm afraid I have to disappoint you and graciously decline. Or, I won't be able to show up, do that, be there, or whatever it is that you're saying no to in the moment. And once you've delivered the information, silence. And I mean absolute silence, not another word. No matter their reaction, no matter how awkward or uncomfortable, do not speak. And whatever you do, stand firm and do not waver once you've made your decision. Now, admittedly, that particular method of declining an invitation may not sound or feel very natural for you, but you get the idea. That's the general gist of what you're shooting for. Kind, polite, elegant, and gracious. Respectful even. Super short and succinct, firm, and crystal clear. Point blank. Period. The beauty of delivering such a clear, kind, firm, and elegant no thank you is it's so over the top polite that there really isn't much that can be said in response, especially if you say the words with a warm smile and then leave it at that. Again, not another word. You are immovable. The frequency you carry says so. Nothing more to say. Now, comment below and tell me whether or not you're finding value in this video. Let me know in the comments section below. And if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there is a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. Now, the problem with our inability to say an elegant and effective no is, especially for untreated or newly recovering codependents, we've been so conditioned to people please, we're often so starved for validation and approval that risking the discomfort of saying no as a means of taking care of ourselves is often utterly terrifying, simply because it's new behavior. I promise you, with practice, you can get good at this. Like with any other boundary setting technique, practice when the stakes are low, when it doesn't really matter so much, so that when the stakes are high and it really matters, you've got some experience under your belt. Not only will it be easier for you to speak the words with confidence and clarity and find out that the world didn't end and nobody died, it's all good, you're allowed to say no, and the narcissist is allowed to not like it, it's okay. Now, what can be helpful in terms of getting good at this is to begin in our own minds by understanding and separating our decision to say no and what that may or may not say about us versus the person we are saying no to, the nature of the relationship, and where our real loyalties and sense of duty and obligation should lie if we're operating from a fundamentally healthy place. When narcissistic people ask us to do something, we can confuse their requests or demands with our own, often irrational sense of duty, obligation, or loyalty to the relationship, whatever that relationship may be. And let's be honest, when we're dealing with people who land on the spectrum of destructive narcissism, it's often misplaced loyalty and a misguided sense of obligation or duty, while we completely ignore our own wants and needs, while also fully ignoring the truth of what we feel. Not good, and definitely not healthy. When we're coming from a state of fear and anxiety, we can forget that denying the narcissist's request does not make us bad or wrong, no matter what the narcissist says or how they feel about not getting their own way. The narcissist's overinflated ego and extreme self-centeredness may cause them to be confused about what's actually true in this regard, but we don't have to be confused. Once we separate the decision to take care of ourselves by saying no from any distorted sense of obligation or duty to what has likely to this point been a very toxic and exploitative relationship, it'll be much easier to make a clear decision and then muster the courage to communicate that decision elegantly and effectively. Whether the narcissist likes it or not will be of no consequence to us. Why? Because we are fully acting from a place of alignment with our personal integrity. And there's a lot of power in coming from a place of alignment with our personal integrity. Not least of which, cultivating the habit of doing so strengthens our sense of self-love and self-esteem. Did you know that saying no gracefully actually doesn't even have to mean using the word no? The reality is, you don't always have to say a flat no to get your point across. There are many diplomatic ways to deliver the message. Healthy, functional people who consistently operate from a place of healthy boundaries actually choose no more often than they say no. Although there may certainly be a time when the most graceful way to say no is to simply say a blunt no. But whether it's an "I'm flattered that you thought of me, but I'm afraid I don't have the time, the ability, or the bandwidth for that matter," or whatever it might be for you. Or, more simply put, "I'd very much like to, but I'm already overcommitted." Either way, there are a variety of ways to refuse the narcissist's requests or demands clearly, firmly, and politely without actually using the word no. If you're feeling torn in the moment, maybe because the narcissist is laying it on thick or they're being relentless in their pursuit of having you do or be whatever it is they're after, rather than focusing on the discomfort you're feeling and therefore giving in to the narcissist who feels entitled to your time, your energy, your attention, and your resources, or all of the above, remember instead to focus on the trade-off. Instead of focusing on them and the potential backlash of not cooperating or complying, instead focus on yourself, your own well-being, and the trade-off for you. What will mustering the courage and strength to say no do for you, your schedule, your well-being, your peace of mind, peace of heart, your bank account? Breathe into your body and take a moment to make that your focus. This shifts the game entirely. We have to learn to stop being so reactive and instead take the space we need to respond, and respond in a way that serves us. Here's how this works. The more we think about what we are giving up when we say yes to someone whom we know from experience doesn't actually value us, nor do they value what we bring to the table of the relationship beyond what's in it for them, the easier it becomes to say no. There is such a thing as an opportunity cost, friends. And if we have no clear sense of what the opportunity cost actually is, in other words, the value of what we are giving up by saying yes or giving in, then we'll be more likely to fall into the trap of taking the easier, softer way in the moment by telling ourselves we can get it all done, do all the things, and be all the things for everyone, including the narcissist. But here's what's true. We can't. We cannot do and be all the things all the time for everyone, especially if we have a vampiric, entitled, emotional toddler who feels entitled to exploit us for our time, energy, attention, and resources latched onto our life. So although it may not be easy, especially if this is new behavior for you, the truth is a graceful no manifests out of a clear but unstated calculation of the trade-off. That's right, unstated. Think about it, don't bother saying it out loud. Silently do the math. What will saying yes to this cost you? How long are you going to be willing to continue to pay that price? When would now be a good time to start taking better care of yourself by learning how to say no? Here's the thing, the narcissist is selling something. Whatever it might be, remind yourself that the narcissist is selling something. They are trying to sell you on an idea that works for them. Not you, them. Even if it's just the idea as to why you should do their bidding, be at their beck and call, reinforce how important and superior they are by showing up anytime they call a meeting, plan a family dinner, or decide for whatever reason that you have to do something or be somewhere. Understand, this doesn't mean you have to be cynical. Just be smart. Narcissists are master manipulators and emotional bullies. Just because they're selling something doesn't mean you have to buy in, especially when that something comes at a cost to you. And if we're dirt honest with ourselves, we'll have to admit that all too often the cost is way too high. Never for them, for you. Simply being aware of what is being sold and to whose benefit empowers us to be more deliberate in deciding whether or not we're in. Giving is good. Doing for others can be good, depending on the circumstances. Giving and doing to our own detriment, however, is never a good idea. Chances are good with a narcissist, you've already done that ad nauseum, and it's enough now. Furthermore, you'll want to make peace with the fact that saying no won't be well received. The truth is, when we say no to anyone, not least of which a destructive narcissist, we have to reconcile within ourselves the fact that being boundaried in this regard isn't going to win us any popularity contests. In fact, when we get good at this, what is more likely to be the case is we'll be trading popularity for respect. And I assure you, it's a worthwhile trade-off. Naturally, when you say no to anyone, there's usually a short-term impact on the relationship. After all, when someone asks for something and doesn't get it, his or her immediate reaction may be annoyance or disappointment. And in the case of a destructive narcissist, we'll likely be dealing with some form of backlash in the way of anger and resentment. So the downside is clear. However, there is a potential upside that most people are too reactive to recognize and, to be honest, too impatient to hold out for. And it's this: when the initial annoyance or disappointment or anger wears off, the respect factor kicks in. Now, undoubtedly, that can take some extra time with a destructive narcissist, but I assure you, if you're consistent, eventually the respect factor will kick in. They may not like it when you're not buying what they're selling and aren't capitulating to their every whim, but they will ultimately be left with no choice but to respect you for your own self-respect, as well as your capacity to remain unmovable in the face of their best efforts and tactics. Even if they never admit it, I promise you, it's an inevitable outcome. When we respect ourselves enough to be able to say no clearly, elegantly, and effectively, and then back ourselves by not caving, it shows others, narcissists included, that our time, energy, attention, and resources are highly valuable to us. We don't just prostitute them or ourselves because they want us to. It separates us from the insecure, codependent people pleaser looking outside of themselves for whatever scraps of acceptance, safety, security, approval, or validation they can find. Instead, it sends the message that we are clear, strong, self-respecting, and boundaried. In other words, we are not available to be pushed around, trampled on, used, abused, manipulated, or exploited in any way by anyone. Healthy, functional people have long accepted that they cannot be popular with everyone all of the time. And certainly saying no respectfully, reasonably, and gracefully can come at a short-term cost socially or otherwise. But part of living a happy, healthy, peaceful, productive, and functional life is realizing respect is far more valuable than popularity will ever be in the long run. Also, you'll want to remember that a clear no can be more graceful and respectful than a vague or non-committal yes. As anyone who has ever been on the receiving end of this situation knows, a clear, "I'm going to pass on this," is far better than not getting back to someone or stringing them along with some non-committal answer like, "I'll try to make this work," or "I might be able to," when the truth is you already know you can't or don't want to. The point being vague is not the same as being graceful. Delaying the eventual no will only make it much harder and the narcissist that much more resentful. Remember, healthy, functional people don't just say no occasionally. It's a part of their regular repertoire. And I don't mean no for the sake of saying no, but rather as a means of self-respect, self-care, and self-preservation. Now that said, to consistently say no elegantly and effectively, it helps to have a handful of responses to use when needed. So here are 5 responses you can put into your no repertoire. Number 1, the awkward pause. Instead of being controlled by the threat of an awkward silence, own it. Use it as a tool, especially when dealing with a destructive narcissist. Silence can be a powerful tool for you to use. So deliberately intend to get comfortable with the uncomfortable silence and learn to use it well. Obviously, this only works in person, but when a request comes to you, just pause for a moment, breathe, and count to 3 before answering. Or, if you can get a bit more bold, simply wait for the other person to fill the void before you render your verdict. Number 2, let me check my schedule and get back to you. This gives you time to pause and reflect and ultimately respond that you're regretfully unavailable. It gives you the space to be in control of your own decisions rather than to be rushed into a yes when asked. Number 3, use the words, "You're welcome to X, I'm willing to Y," and fill in the X and Y blanks. For example, "You're welcome to borrow my car, I'm willing to make sure the keys are here for you." By this, you are also saying, "I won't be able to drive you." You're saying what you will not do, but you're couching it in terms of what you are willing to do. And this is a particularly good way to navigate a request you're happy to partially accommodate, but you're unable or unwilling to throw your full weight behind. Number 4, I can't do it, but so-and-so may be able to. As the champion, highly empathic, recovering codependents and saviors of the world that many of us are or have been at least, it can be tempting to think that our help is uniquely invaluable. But often enough, the narcissist requesting something doesn't really care if we're the ones who help them, as long as they get what they want. So, suggest another option and let them be the big girls and boys that they are and go figure it out. Number 5, when dealing with a narcissistic boss and their unreasonable demands, you might try saying something like, okay, what would you like me to deprioritize? Saying no to your superior at work is almost unthinkable for many people. However, when saying yes is going to compromise your ability to do a good job, it's actually your obligation. In this case, it's not only reasonable to say no, it's necessary and essential. One effective way to do that is to remind the person in question what you would be neglecting if you said yes. This forces them to grapple with the trade-off. For example, if your manager comes to you and asks you to do XYZ, you can respond with, sure, I'm willing to make this the priority, but which of these other projects should I deprioritize in order to be able to pay attention to this new project? Or smile and say, I want to do a great job, but the truth is, given my other commitments, I wouldn't be able to do a job I'd be proud of if I took this on. Here's the thing, you're a human being. You have limits. You don't have to work yourself into the ground for anyone. You are your number one asset, and it's up to you to take care of your number one asset. No one else is going to do this for you. It's up to you. And with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. But before I go, how can Tammy M Coaching help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell to make sure you get my new video every Friday. Number 2, watch my free web class by clicking on the link in the description below, and you'll learn about my personal journey and professional experience through decades of research specific to healing and recovery from codependency and narcissistic abuse. You'll also learn about some powerful strategies that you can begin to use today. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, and you'd like to be supported by a stellar community of like-minded people who are focused on solutions that actually work, you can learn more about my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, by going to www.tammymcoaching.com and clicking on programs and reviews for all the details. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to break free from painful relationship patterns permanently and actually make lasting progress in your healing and recovery, go to tammymcoaching.com and click on Apply Now to learn how you can become my client.